Basic of BarnBurner.ca, and welcome to the BarnBurner TV network here on Zingo TV channel 250. Remember to download both the BarnBurner app and the Zingo TV app in the respective store on iOS and Android. Also, Zingo TV is also available on Roku Sticks, Amazon Fire TV Sticks, Google Chromecast, and all smart TVs 2016 forward. Welcome to part one of BarnBurner Live, the flagship show of the BarnBurner TV network here on Zingo TV channel 250. And I got her, Elizabeth Rostistan. I wanted her on today. I want her on every week because this lady, how old are you, Elizabeth? Honestly, I know you're not supposed to ask your age, but tell everybody how old you are.
It's okay, Joe. I'm still young. It's okay to ask me. I just turned 21.
She just turned 21. This lady, if there's ever must-see TV, you got to check out the Dismount Saturdays at 1 p.m. and then Monday at 12:30. You got to check out the Elizabeth Rostistan show because you know what? For 21 years old, she is poised. She can talk about, not many people could talk about gymnastics, but let's talk about your history there. I hear that you were a gymnast.
Yes, Joe, you hear correctly. I was a rhythmic gymnast for many, many years, around 12 years.
Many years, and you're only 21. What? When you were born? Okay, I'm going to be a rhythmic gymnast at the age of 1. No, but how long was it? Like 8, 10 years, or?
It was around 12 years. I started when I was around 6, 7.
So why? And I'm not going to say you quit or whatever, but what made you go into, I guess, the sports media instead of continuing on? Because you're fairly young, but I don't know how rhythmic gymnastics. How old do they? What's the window span there? Do they retire at age 20, or they go 25, or?
Well, gymnastics is a very, very young sport, especially rhythmic gymnastics. I feel like artistic, you can go on longer, but rhythmic is a very, very young sport. So women usually retire around the age of 18. I retired at 19, but I could have gone on. Some people go on until 25. Some people go on 23. There was one, I think the record in rhythmic gymnastics was 30 years old. So certain gymnasts do go on longer, but I had a choice to make, either continue with gymnastics for another couple of years or study full-time in university. And I got into the university that I really, really wanted to, into the program that I wanted to. And I just couldn't miss out on this opportunity. I thought it was now or never. And as much as I absolutely love gymnastics, and as hard as it was for me to make that decision, it was 100% worth it. And I just had to take the chance, and I'm very glad I did.
All right. So, what is that school? I just have to ask that because you know where we're leading. What was that school that you wanted to be there? You wanted to go and learn and everything like that. What was that school?
Ryerson University.
Well, okay, my alma mater, but why Ryerson? What did you hear? Because we forgot to talk about this. You were gymnast in Lithuania. You weren't a gymnast in Canada. So when you're in Lithuania and sort of coming here or whatever, what did you hear about Ryerson, and what made you go, okay, I can be a sports reporter, or I want to cover sports, or I know hockey, baseball, basketball, football, or whatever?
Well, it was hard for me to decide what I wanted to do with my life, because the only thing I knew how to do was gymnastics. I didn't have any other kind of special skills, and that gymnastics was everything and anything I really knew. So it was kind of a hard decision. I thought about coaching, but then I thought, oh, I want to do something more and kind of explore my options. So then I really started looking into sports journalism, because I like writing, I like being in front of the camera, I like talking about sports. Sports has always been a huge part of my life. But unfortunately, Lithuania is such a small country. There weren't any programs that would let me pursue that kind of career in a very strong way. There was journalism and there was certain programs like communications, but nothing that would give me the experience that I really wanted. And then I started, since I had a Canadian citizenship, I started looking into universities in Canada, and I stumbled upon Ryerson and the sport media program. And I started reading about it, and I started looking up alumni and professors, and I thought, wow, this is absolutely amazing, and I would absolutely love to be in this program. And that's when I kind of realized that this is the school I want to go to, because the program, it described literally everything that I wanted to do. So that's kind of, I didn't know about Ryerson. I just kind of accidentally actually found it. But then when I looked more into it, I realized that this is the perfect school for me and this is the perfect program for me. So that's kind of how I got into it.
You mentioned you did some research on alumni or whatever. Is that how you met me? And let's talk about our first conversation. Okay, I don't know if you remember that.
I
Okay,
do.
but I do. But like when you uh, looked for alumni or whatever, did you talk to anybody other than me or whatever? But did you talk? Did they reach out to you, or did nobody answer your call? I guess.
I didn't actually reach out to anyone. I just kind of did my research and I realized that a lot of people that work at the big, sports media companies like TSN, Sportsnet, are Ryerson graduates. And I
What about
thought, wow.
BarnBurner? Take PSN and Sportsnet, but not BarnBurner.
And,
Come on.
and of course, BarnBurner. And of course, I'm sorry. How can I
It's
miss
okay. It's okay. It's okay. But
but yeah, I kind of just researched it and I realized that a lot of Ryerson graduates work at these big companies. And I thought, oh wow, this is amazing. This could really get me somewhere. So I didn't actually contact anyone, which now looking back, I probably should have, but I was still in high school. I was kind of shy, kind of scared, and didn't really kind of build up the courage to contact anyone. But I would definitely would now.
you don't need to. You got the best. He gave you the best and everything. But let's. Is this your first year or second year?
I just finished my second year. I'm gonna be going into third year of university. Still
Okay.
2 years to go.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask you this: when you started to now, what's the? Give me two or three things that you learned that you didn't even think about. Wow, like a wow factor.
Well, coming into the program, I felt that I was kind of behind because a lot of people who finished high school in Canada, they had already had some media experience. Some people took radio in high school, some people took media studies or something like that. Some people already knew how to use Premiere Pro and Photoshop and work with all these programs and work with the camera. I never had that. In my high school, it was math, science, Lithuanian, English. That's it. Just the basic things. So I didn't know how to use a camera. I didn't know how to talk in front of a camera. I didn't know how to use anything. So, and a lot of people already did. So I felt kind of intimidated and I thought, wow, I'm really behind. But after first year, I realized that I put in a lot of work and I did a lot of extra work to kind of try and catch up. And I realized that I learned so many skills over that 1 year that I haven't learned in 12 years of school. I learned how to use Premiere Pro. I fell in love with kind of video editing. I learned how to use Photoshop. I learned how to properly present myself in front of the camera. I learned how to operate a camera. I would have never dreamt of knowing these things when I was in high school. So I'm extremely happy and I just can't wait to learn more. And of course, BarnBurner it's such a big opportunity for me and it's such a big TV network. And I can't believe that, I'm getting the chance to show what I've learned.
So number one, I'm going to say this. Going back to our first conversation, and you were telling me, that you're in gymnastics and all that. And we here at BarnBurner, we always think outside the box. I said, wow, gymnastics. And we talked about Nadia Comaneci and everything like that. Nobody in the world is doing a gymnastics show. Okay? That's the truth. That's the truth. And what better, and if you're in my position, what better way to have a gymnastics show with a gymnast who actually, I don't know, we have never talked about winning, losing, winning gold medals, losing, or winning championship. It doesn't matter because you're good at what you do. I put you in position and you're just destroying it all the time. Do you realize, do people say great job or whatever? Because this is really, we know each other, what, 3 months, right? 3, 4 months. And you, like, I joke around in the team, rookie of the year or whatever. But if there's certain people who just take the ball and score, and every time you get on the TV or the radio, you take the ball and not only score, you score and you spike the ball down. Like, does that come from being an athlete before?
I think some of it, yes. I think, being a professional athlete pretty much for the most part of my life taught me a lot of things, and taught me a lot of different life lessons, I guess, at a young age. And one of the lessons that I find most valuable, gymnastics taught me that if you want something, you have to work extremely hard for it, like extremely hard for it. And that might sound a bit cheesy, but and kind of basic, but a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people think that opportunities may just come for them, and if they do the bare minimum, they'll survive. But if you really want to succeed in something, you have to give 110%. So that's what I'm trying to do, and I try to perfect my work. I try to give 110%, and I think gymnastics really did teach me that. I don't think I would have such a good work ethic and such a good understanding of how how hard you have to work for something to get rewarded. So gymnastics definitely taught me that.
How hard for people who just starting? Remember, we already established you're 21 years old. You host 2 TV shows. Okay, not one, 2 TV shows. One, you could probably do it with your eyes closed. The Dismount Saturdays gymnastic show, and you bring the who's who in gymnastic. And you know what? Like, honestly, I don't think there's many gymnastic show in the world. So you're one of, maybe if there is another one or two, you're one of 3 shows in the world. And I would put your show, gymnastic show, up against any show in the world. And that's how good I think you have become. And you know what? Honestly, I'm not going to try to make you big head or whatever. But I think, like I said, like I always tell you, we're scratching the surface with gymnastics. It doesn't matter. We're in North America, right? The North America, the top 4 big sports, football, baseball, which starting today, basketball, and hockey. But why? Why is there's not a talk of gymnastics, of other sports, and all that? Let's give people who, you're a gymnast. Why did you become gymnast? Because you loved it. So people need, and why do people? You're in Canada. You're born. Okay, your dad watches hockey. You become a hockey fan. Why people can't learn? Why isn't not enough people showing this is gymnastics? Give it a try. Let's see if you love it. Because that's what happened with you.
Absolutely. I mean, that's something that really, really shocked me when I came to Canada. The not a lot of people even know what gymnastics is, especially the type of gymnastics that I did, rhythmic gymnastics. When I tell people I did rhythmic gymnastics, they say, "Oh, it's not even a sport," or "Oh, it's just dancing around, whatever." Which it is not, and that just shocked me and made me
And
quite.
actually, it's more harder. Honestly, I'm sorry to cut you
Yeah.
off. but that's more harder than just going on the dismount and all that, because you like you said it, rhythmic gymnastic, you got to be on time, you got to have the rhythmic. It's so cliche to say that, but it's everything is timing.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's called rhythmic for a reason, right? And yeah, that's absolutely right. You have to pay attention to every single detail. You have to, be able to throw an apparatus in the air while doing flips under it, while pointing your toes and smiling, and then being able to catch it behind your back, And
I do that all the time. Okay, I do that all the time, and I smile. Never mind. But honestly, let me ask you this. I know we're going all over the place, but what was your greatest accomplishment? And actually, what was the thing you fell, I guess, or this biggest disappointment?
Well, I think that my biggest achievement, obviously, I was national champion 5 times.
Wait, hold on. You were national champion. When did you ever tell me this?
I was yes, I was national champion. Yeah.
National, how many times?
5.
5. For what years?
I'm pretty sure first time was 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18.
And you retired in 2018 as a champion?
Yes.
What is wrong with you? You retired as a champ. Where's our producer? Let's get on some 5. We got a 5-time, 2 more time, 5-time champion. You never told me this. You just told me I went to Ryerson. Right now, I said you're hired. Come on, a 5-time champion. Honestly, the first time you won, whatever, like the championship, how did you feel? Is it comparable? You winning, this year, next year? Is it like an old hat, or are you just like, wow, there's so much pressure, or I gotta win? I won last year. I gotta win this year. I gotta win next year. Take me through the psyche of every year winning a championship.
It was honestly the first time I couldn't believe it, because I wasn't talented. I wasn't a talented.
Talented 5-time champion, not talented.
At first I was terrible. Joe, you should have seen me. When I first started gymnastics, I was the worst one of the group, and no one really believed that I could become anything, because I was just so unflexible and uncoordinated, and I was just not good, and everyone laughed at, like, all the other girls I remember laughed at me, because I was the worst one, and I just loved it so much that I put in a lot of work. And the first one was just definitely special, and I would say the last one was even more special than the first one, if I'm being honest.
So, and why was that?
Because I knew it was my last. I knew this is.
How many people knew about it? Was it only you knew that this is your last competition ever?
My coach knew, and my parents knew, and that's about it. And
Wow.
it was very emotional. It was a roller coaster of emotions. I was not scared at all. That was probably the only competition that I felt completely free and not scared at all, because I knew that this is my last competition, and no one's expecting anything. I don't have to kind of impress anyone anymore. I was doing it for myself. And when I got that first place, I could believe it, obviously. I kind of, in a way, was expecting it, but it was just something very unbelievable to me, and it was very emotional. And there was a bunch of tears, and the tears of joy and tears of sadness, and it was just an extremely emotional competition. So that's why I think that's a moment that I'll remember my whole life.
And what do you get when you're a 5-time champion? Like, what do they give you? A gold medal? Do they give you like a flower? I know they give you flowers, probably the crappiest flowers in the world. Do you still have them?
No, I do not have the flowers anymore, but when I retired, they did give me kind of like a plaque, I guess, and it said it noted my achievements, and they gave me a medal, obviously, and it was very, and then they announced my retirement, and it was very emotional. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of money involved in gymnastics, especially not in rhythmic gymnastics. So that was
Elizabeth, you want me to tell you something? There's not a lot of money in sports media. There's not a lot of money in sports media, unless you know Eduardo Harari. He gives you a lot. Anyways, but okay, I didn't know you keep it very low key. 5 times retiring as a champion, like Elizabeth. Seriously, does anybody in your school know that you were a 5-time champion?
Some people do, yeah.
And do you feel that if they know you're a champion, they treat you more as a like celebrity?
No, I don't think so. I feel like I'm just a very low key person, and I don't act that I'm, better than anyone. So I
You're
really
very
didn't.
polite.
Well, that's what I'm going for. But no one treats me differently. It's not like I was, when the NBA championships or the Olympics.
So
Yeah.
now you're entering year 3 at Ryerson. What is it? Because you're already doing 2 TV shows, okay? What is it? Year 3, year 4. What do you see? What do you want to accomplish? Because you're sort of living the dream already.
I absolutely am. I can't believe, honestly, the things that I'm doing right now. I mean, hosting a gymnastics show was my dream. I mean, that's something that when I went into first year sport media, that was one of my goals. I wanted to have a gymnastics show. And you mentioned our first conversation, and I can't even explain how excited I was, because I couldn't believe I would actually get to talk about gymnastics on TV and on a network. So I can't believe the opportunities that I'm already getting, and I just can't wait what I have in store, what's there in store for my future.
So now, like, we have BarnBurner here. We have the best. We have athletes. We have guys in the media and up and comers. I'm going to call it, like yourself or whatever. Do you find it easier now to attract guests now that you have TV show?
Absolutely. I feel like now I feel like it was the hardest part was getting my first guest. Because no one I couldn't say, oh, I already interviewed these people, I would love for you to be a part of this. Now I kind of built a resume on the network, sort of, and now I could say that, oh, I interviewed this person and this person, so would you like to be a part of this? And I feel like many more people reply. So very happy about that, and I've already gotten some big names to come on and in the gymnastics world, and I definitely have some big plans.
So let me ask you, getting back to gymnastics, and then we'll talk about other sports and everything. Who, because now that I know you're a 5-time champion, okay, who was your idol growing up, and who do you want on your show? Or maybe you had them already, but who would you want on your show? Because let's call them out, okay? You're on the main show on the network here. Let's call them out. So who do you want on your gymnastics show?
Well, you asked about my idol. My idol growing up was gymnast. She's retired now, a rhythmic gymnast, Anna Basanova from Ukraine. She was my absolute idol. I loved her. I love her style. I love her as a person.
Why?
She's just amazing because she's very humble. She's world champion. She's 2-time Olympic bronze medalist. Yet she's extremely humble, and I really respect humble people. And I feel like that's a very, very good quality to have, especially when you have achieved a lot. So I really always respected that about her. And I also really loved her style of gymnastics. She was very elegant. But a person that I would love to have on the show, of course her, but the issue, she doesn't really speak English that well. But someone that does speak English that I would love to have is Simone Biles, which is probably an obvious answer, since she's the absolute queen of gymnastics right now. And it would be insanely hard to get her, but I would absolutely love if she could be
Eduardo,
interview her.
hold on. I'm going to get our producer. Give Elizabeth the surprise we talked about. Get her on. See, I want to see Elizabeth's eyes. I'm just joking. I want to, but Simone. Okay, I'll cut the promo. Simone Biles, you are known as the lady who is tearing up gymnastics right now. This is a five-time Ridden gymnastic champion asking you, very humbly, asking you if you need, if you can come on the show, the dismount. Look, the name of the show is, this is why you have to go on the show, the dismount, okay? She's asking you to please come on the dismount, talk about your life, help her out, and all that. I expect Simone to get back. This is Jolt and Joe talking, not Joe. This is I'm like The Rock. When Jolt and Joe talks, people listen. Just ask our producer; he never listens. But anyways, Simone, come on, do us solid here. If you want Simone, if you don't want to come on alone with Elizabeth, I'll go on with you. I'll teach. Did I tell you I used to be a gymnast? When I went on the dismount, I tore my groin and my career was over. Okay, so that's what was the biggest injury you had actually?
Biggest injury?
Yeah.
So I had quite a few actually. I didn't have anything extremely serious, but I did have a very, very bad knee inflammation. I had I had a very bad knee inflammation that lasted 2 years, and I had to get special treatments every day, and I was on medication. And at one point, I got to the point where I couldn't even stand on that leg. So I was very close to getting surgery, but I decided to wait because that same year I had to compete in world championships. And if I had the surgery, I wouldn't be able to. So right after the world championships, instead of getting the surgery, I took a 2-month break from gymnastics. And then that injury it didn't fully resolve, but it got better to the point where I didn't need surgery anymore. And another one would be my back, which I still struggle with till this day a bit. I have a moved disc in my back because of gymnastics, but I feel like even though those injuries were pretty significant in my life, I would say they're not extremely serious, and nothing that is a burden to me today. So I feel like I'm pretty fortunate because there are some pretty bad injuries that can happen in gymnastics. So I feel lucky.
Okay, so when you have like these injuries, people don't know. It doesn't matter what sport, okay? Take us through when you were winning. Now I'm gonna milk this for everything, okay? 5-time champion. Take us through your daily routine of being even. People say, "Oh, rhythm gymnastics. What? No, who cares about that or whatever?" But you're an athlete. It's the same thing: baseball, hockey, football, or whatever. Take us through your daily routine because you are. I'm not going to say paid to perform. You are actually okay. You got to be performing. You got to be out there. And for $100 maybe.
It was a struggle. It was a hard schedule. So when I was competing professionally, I had training 6 times a week. I usually got Sundays off, but sometimes I would even have training on Sundays. It would depend when the competition was. But my daily schedule I would wake up at around 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m. I would have my first training session at 6 a.m., which then it would end at 8 a.m., and then I would go to school at 8:30 a.m. Then right after school, which ended around 1 or 2, usually 2, I would go to my second training session. and that would last around 5 hours, 5 to 6 hours, and then I would leave around 10, and then go home and do homework, and then I would go to bed at around 12 or 1 a.m., and then I would have to wake up at 5 again. So it was hard. It was a struggle. I usually trained for like 5, 6 hours, 7 hours sometimes every day, plus having to go to school and finish high school with good grades because I didn't want to go to university, so I actually had to try in that as well. So it was hard, but I kind of got into the schedule and I had a goal, and I didn't have time for social life or anything else, but I liked it. I'm not complaining because that's the lifestyle I chose, and I loved it.
And do you have a social life now?
I
You're
do.
doing
I'm
BarnBurner all the
catching up.
time. Come on. All right. So let's talk about, and then we'll talk about other sports. Let's talk about seriously when you graduate in 2 years. What
Mhm.
is left for you to do? Because you're already the queen of a network here. You're already seen and heard, and you're going to be writing more stuff for BarnBurner, hopefully. So what is left for you to do?
Well, the sky's the limit, really. I want to do still so much more. I want to, maybe these shows are amazing, and I want to go forward and do more, and maybe edit videos and do more shows and maybe do some news. And I would just want to take every opportunity that I can get, really.
So let me ask you, you're already do the Dismount Saturday here on the BarnBurner TV network, single TV channel 250. You do your own show, Elizabeth Ross, the Stan Show, and we're going to talk about sports now. Mondays, you mentioned new shows and editing and everything like that. If I asked you right now, what what show do you want to do more? Because for me, you're doing killing it for gymnastics, and your other show is really delivering well also. So what else is there, or what other show do you want to do? Do you want to do like takeaway sports? Do you want to do a cooking show? Do you want to do an entertainment show? Do you want to, like, honestly?
Honestly, Joe, I'm still thinking about that. I am really enjoying the shows that I'm doing right now on Saturday and Monday, and also the other shows that I appear as a guest on are also really fun and really interesting. But I feel like the two shows I have now, I try to invest all my energy in them, and my goal for right now would be to get more people and more guests on my shows, and kind of make it even more interesting and kind of grow that network and grow those shows.
So let me ask you this. Um, if you had Simone Biles, okay, you had her on here next week, 2 weeks, a month, or whatever, what would be a question you would ask her?
Oh, one
I put
question
I
I would
put you
ask
on the spot. See,
her,
I
putting me
know
on
it's
the
a lady.
spot.
Yeah, you gotta see. Number one rule at Ryerson, you gotta think on your feet. How many times did you hear that? Come on.
I would probably ask her, what is the hardest part about balancing gymnastics with your social life and with your academic life? Because Simone Biles is someone who is the top gymnast in the world, if not of all time. She's also studying currently, and she's also a very social person, and she has lots of friends and a big social life, and she manages somehow to balance all those things.
But
That really.
don't you? Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I'm not dissing Simone Biles or whatever, but like, honestly, here it is. You still go to school. You balance two shows on a TV network, radio, and everything like that, and somehow you still have a social life too, right? You and Eduardo go out for drinks all the time. So, like, look,
All the time.
that's right. But how do
Yeah,
you
that's
balance it? Because yeah, she, Simone Biles, but in my eyes, honestly, she's great. But I have somebody great on our team, and that's you. Because now that I'm saying it again, 5-time champion,
true.
doing shows here. and balancing out doing shows and going to school? How are your marks at Ryerson?
They're very good. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a good student.
And,
Um,
and you're a good host and co-host and guest and all that. Like, honestly, like, when you look back, do you look back at shows that you've done already?
I do. I do. I rewatch my shows actually because I want to improve myself, and I look back at the shows to see what I could improve at. So I
And
do
what is it that
rewatch.
you find?
Sorry.
What is it that you find?
I feel like I repeat certain words, and there are certain words that I could cut out. I've noticed actually that I say a lot. So I'm trying to cut that out. And there is like certain little small details that some people might not even notice, but I want to improve on. And I really try to do that. And I think it's really important to kind of rewatch your work and see what you can do better.
And that's why, honestly, you just gave the best answer that you could give. Anybody who wants to have a broadcasting, media, TV, radio job in this, study hard. And here, we'll go say this. We went back to the first time we talked. What was the first things that I told you? What am I looking for in somebody that I hire? Do you remember that?
You said hard work.
Hard work, passionate, hungry,
Mhm.
and what's the other one? Humble.
Humble.
And what did you say that you uh like and want from people and all that?
I like when people are humble.
That's why, honestly, I'm gonna say this. We have a great team, and some of our members on the team are really fantastic. But you, out of nowhere, I'm really proud of you. And you know why I'm proud of you? Because not only can you talk about gymnastics and nobody else on the team can. Okay, that's the honest truth. And I don't want them to talk about, because they're not a five-time champion. You like that, eh? See? There's the segues. All right, but we're gonna talk about. We got about 20 minutes left. We're gonna talk about some sports here because we're gonna show that Elizabeth Wastastat is not only a gymnast, she's everything. Okay, baseball is starting tonight. The Washington Nationals defending World Series champion up against some team called the Yankees. Have you ever heard of the Yankees? Like,
Just a
yeah.
little bit sometimes.
Now, 60 games in 66 days. It's more like a gymnastics season, right?
Yeah, you know what, Joe? When I first heard that they're doing a 60-game season, I was pretty shocked because it's very short. I mean, 60 games. And now, when I watch the spring training games and some of the exhibition games, some of the teams that were supposed to be good were not as good as I was expecting, because I feel like certain teams, they need time to kind of get into it, especially now with certain teams having a lot of young players and new prospects. They need to kind of get into it and get into the flow of things before they can start playing their best baseball. But basically, I don't know. It's surprising now. Now every team has to do it now or never, because they don't have a lot of time to get into the flow. Each team has to perform in each game the best that they can.
All right. So I'm going to ask you point blank. 16 teams will qualify. They just announced this today. 16 teams will qualify for the Major League Baseball playoffs. I'm going to ask you, forget about who's going to qualify, who's going to win or whatever. The biggest question, we're in Toronto, right? We're in Toronto. The Toronto Blue Jays don't have a home. Okay?
I know. Yeah.
Can they play in Lithuania?
If I was the president of Lithuania, I would allow.
All right.
No, but with all seriousness, I respect the Canadian government's decision to not let them play. I really do, because as much as I love the Blue Jays and I love sports and I love baseball, I just don't think that would be right, because there would be American teams coming in and out of Canada, And even though they would be isolated, I still don't think, I personally wouldn't be comfortable with that. And I think a lot of Canadian citizens wouldn't. So I agree with their decision, but I also think the Blue Jays could have thought of a backup plan sooner, because now they're kind of, they don't know where to go and they're left without a home, as you said, Joe. I heard they might be in Buffalo or somewhere else, or cozy up with a major league team, most likely, actually. But, I think they could have worked out a backup plan earlier, because this was to be expected.
Now, are the Blue Jays at a disadvantage because of this? Because let's face it, all their games, it doesn't matter if it's 60, 80, 162, all their games, they're going to be the road team.
Exactly. I mean, they're at a very big disadvantage, I would say, because, well, number one, they have a lot of young players who I feel like need to concentrate, and they need to concentrate on playing baseball, not, kind of constantly being on the road. So I think they're definitely at a disadvantage, but hey, this is sports, you have to, if you're an athlete, you have to be able to cope with anything. So, the Jays, I don't think this is going to be their season, but I do think they're a very, very prominent team. They have a lot of very good prospects, very good young players. Guerrero's been moved up, I think, which is a great decision. They have Bichette, Biggio. They have so many young, great players. But so I think not this year, but maybe next, or the next year or the year after will be their year.
So let me ask you this. I just thought about this. Okay, we mentioned 16-team playoffs. What if the Blue Jays make the playoffs?
Mhm.
Are they going to play games at Skydome or Rogers Center in October?
Well, Joe, I'm just hoping that the MLB gets to October, because they already have some positive cases going around. So I just hope they get to October and they get to the playoffs and they don't have to break off the season midway. But I don't know what they're gonna do. I think a lot of government health officials are predicting that there will be a second wave of COVID. So if there's a second wave, they're definitely not going to be allowed to play in the Sky Dome, obviously, Rogers Center. So if there's not a second wave and things kind of calm down in the States, because the States is not a very good place to be right now in terms of COVID cases, but if things do calm down by October, I think maybe the Canadian government will reconsider and let them host the playoffs in the Rogers Center, because it would benefit Toronto, I think, in Canada financially and in many ways, really. So it all depends on the COVID situation, really.
Okay, so that's for baseball. Let's talk about next week. Actually, tomorrow, the Raptors play their first, continued season, preseason, whatever you want to call it, game against Houston. Are you excited? And the bubble in Orlando, that's MLS, first week or whatever was terrible. But now everybody is good. Now their NBA is starting that bubble in Orlando also. Let's hope and pray that everything goes well there also. But, basketball, and we talked about baseball, seeing games with no fans or whatever. When we look at hockey also going to be here with no fans and all that, how unusual, which sport is like, wow, like, okay, baseball or whatever, what's for you, what sport is unusual watching the game without any fans?
Well, I think the MLS games that I have watched, it's hard to talk about other leagues because their seasons haven't fully started yet. But for MLS, I feel like the games that I've watched have been very, very unusual without the fans, and I think it's not the same, and it's definitely not the same, and they weren't as exciting, because I feel in soccer, you don't the you don't have as many goals. Sometimes there's a game when no goals are scored. So I think for people who aren't extremely into soccer and who don't know all the semantics and who just, are there for the excitement and watch for the excitement of the game, don't get that full excitement right now without fans. And I think fans are a huge part of soccer. I think the NBA will not be hit as hard just because I feel basketball is very active and there's scoring going on constantly. So I think every league will get hit by this. I think every league will be kind of not as exciting without fans, but MLS was hit hard, and I definitely think it lost viewers and it hasn't been as exciting. But what can you do? You know,
Okay, so you mentioned we'll talk about basketball in a couple seconds, but you mentioned MLS. Now they're heading into the round of 16.
Mhm,
TFC made it through it. Vancouver
mhm.
looks like made it through it. Montreal still by the skin of their teeth. Um, who's your pick? Do you think TFC can go past round of 16, maybe round 4, or even win it?
Honestly, I think so. I've really enjoyed watching TFC. I mean, their game against New England, I think a few days ago, was one of the, even though there were no goals scored, was a really exciting game. I think even for those who aren't extremely into soccer, it was really exciting to watch. And I think both teams had young players debut in that game, and it's always exciting to see fresh young players make their career debut in the MLS. So that was really exciting, and that was a tough battle. I mean, New England was it's a tough opponent, and TFC, they kept their head in the game, and I didn't expect them to be this good. So I think I don't know about winning it, but I think they can make it far.
Okay, so that brings up one other question, and then we'll talk about basketball again or hockey. Other than gymnastics, because we all established gymnastic is your go-to sport. What's your second go-to sport?
Uh, um, Figure skating or basketball.
Figure skating or basketball? Okay, so you would say, one would think when you say figure skating, you're going to say hockey. Why you go from figure skating, not hockey, to basketball?
Well, basketball is a sport that I sort of grew up watching just because it's really, really popular in Lithuania.
No,
Lithuania,
Jonas Valanciunas.
yeah, and Sabonis.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something that's a sport I really grew up watching, and my parents watched it, and I watched it with friends, and it's just a sport that I constantly followed growing up. So hockey isn't as big in Lithuania and in Europe, and well, I guess it's pretty big in some countries, but not in Lithuania. So I didn't grow up watching hockey as much, but I grew up with watching basketball. So I think I love hockey as well. I mean, I love it, but I think something that really attracts me to basketball is the kind of quickness and the scoring. I love when it's an active game. I love when there's a lot of scoring going on. So that's something that attracts me to basketball.
So I asked you this before, but let's go. Who's your pick for the Larry Ob? Put it that way.
For NBA,
Yes.
um, I said Milwaukee before. I still stand with that. But honestly, the Lakers as well. I mean, you can't argue with that. They're one of the best. But I think Milwaukee, they have Giannis, but they have also a lot of other very, very good players. And also Clippers. I wouldn't count them out. I mean, Leonard, Williams, they have a lot of really, really good players and a very good team. And a lot of people are also counting out the Raptors. And I know you just asked me for one team, but I'm just kind of explaining what I think because a lot of people are counting the Raptors out. They think they can't, repeat what they already have done, but they're in great shape. And Marc Gasol, I mean, he has been working hard during quarantine. He's in great shape, and he's one of their most powerful players. So I think they're in a great position.
All right. So we got to a couple minutes. to talk about Canada's favorite sport, lacrosse. No, I'm joking. Hockey. Okay, well, lacrosse is Canada's national sport. It's
Yeah.
not hockey. It's not hockey. I don't know how many people know that, but shout out to a good friend, Dan Ladisor, who's now the new coach of the New York Riptide. We'll have him on here sooner or later. But hockey, the bubble in Toronto. I don't know if you live downtown or whatever, but the bubble in Toronto. Are you scared? Because there's going to be players, or are you going to be like, oh my God, here's Austin Matthews. Here's, at Enid Center, Austin Matthews shops with for suits and cowboy hats and all that. Come on. But, the Maple Leafs, you think, I know you weren't born in 67, but that's the last time. Only guy who was born in 67 is Eric. He was born 1867, Canada's birthday. But you think the Toronto Maple Leafs will win the Stanley Cup this year?
Honestly, I do not think that. I think they still have
for your time, Elizabeth. No, I'm joking. Go ahead.
Honestly, Joe, do you think so? Because
if Eric Cohen slips me like $50, I'll say yes. If he doesn't, I'll say no. But you know what? Like honestly, I'm a Maple Leaf fan. Like maybe half the people who are watching this right now. When is it time? We've seen the Raptors win the championship, the Argos win the championship. Hell, the Toronto Marlies won the championship.
yeah.
When is it about Toronto Rock lacrosse?
Mhm.
When is it about time that the Maple Leafs actually do something and win? And this year, because it's so condensed, they're playing home games. They're not really playing home games. There's no fans, but the building's going to be rocking if the Maple Leafs go, to Eastern Conference Final. Put it that way. No fans. People know they'll wait outside the hotel, whatever. So this is the best chance for the Maple Leafs to win. But you're saying no. So who's going to win the Stanley Cup in your eyes?
Well, okay. The reason I don't think the Leafs are going to win is don't get me wrong. I think they have amazing forwards. They have, a few of the best players in the league. I mean, no one can argue that Matthews is amazing. Marner, those guys are great, but they're struggling with. I think they're struggling a bit with being a team. I think they're a team of very young players that kind of are struggling to be a team and to work as a team. And also they have some points where they can improve. Goalie isn't the best, defense isn't the best. Their strong points is obviously their forwards. And they spend so much money on those few players that there's not much else they can do. But I think they have a bright future. I think hopefully we'll see them win in the next couple of years, maybe. But I think Boston has a great chance. I think Boston, as much as I know Leafs fans will hate to hear this, but I think Boston has a great chance to win.
All right. So that's Elizabeth Rostastan. Elizabeth, once again, tell everybody how they can see you, hear you, and tell everybody about your social media.
Well, first of all, Joe, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and come on the shows. And I think we had a really interesting conversation here today. But you guys, everyone can reach me on Instagram, e.rossatan, on Twitter, erossatan, and make sure to tune in every Saturday at 1 p.m. to the Dismount Show, and every Monday to the Elizabeth Rossatan Show at 12:30 p.m. And also now Tuesdays to the Sports Route with Elizabeth at 10:30 p.m. So make sure not to miss that and contact me on social media as well.
Now listen, you gotta watch. It's must-watch TV because she didn't say something that I wanted to say now. 5-time defending. It doesn't matter, gold medalist, not gold, champion for rhythmic gymnastic, Elizabeth Rostastan. Check her out Saturday here on the BarnBurner TV network, Single TV, channel 250 for the dismount at 1 p.m., 12:30 on Monday for the Elizabeth Rostastan show. And you heard it here. She is fantastic, and she's definitely going places. and hopefully a signer to a long-term contract filled with a lot of zeros. But thank you, Elizabeth. We'll be back in about 5 minutes for part 2 of BarnBurner Live with the Hall of Famer Steve Carney of WDAE Radio in Tampa Bay, Florida, previewing the Blue Jays opening series against the Tampa Bay Rays. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Jim.